platform where information is guaranteed. Join me on Mondays at 5 on Fit 96.7, fitfmja.com, Trelawney's Radio, your life, your music, for exciting features within the diaspora. And hear what's on our minds. It's live at 5 on Fit 96.7, fitfmja.com.
Get your day started right with the Morning Connection. Weekday mornings, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here on Fit FM 96.7. Connect with Julia Mikkel Benaya on the Morning Connection for news, business and artist promotions, great music and vibe. Morning Connection with Julia Mikkel Benaya, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. weekdays on Fit FM 96.7. Your life, your music.
Fit FM is owned and operated by Communication Company Limited, located in Stuart Castle, Duncan's Trelawney, Jamaica. We broadcast on FM 96.7 locally and is heard worldwide on fitfmja.com. Our mission is to amplify diverse voices and opinions, inform, educate, entertain, and engage listeners of all ages and lifestyle while promoting responsible community development. Fit FM 96.7, your life, your music.
Destigmatize, the Western Regional Health Mental Wellness radio program, right here on Fit FM 96.7, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Destigmatize, to raise mental awareness and reduce stigma and discrimination through education, discussions, and highlights. Join us for lived experience interviews, to learn from the experts, for the Brainwaves Educational Focus segment, and Your Time, where you get answers to your questions. With host Dr. Lisbeth Crossman, a psychiatrist. So join us every Thursday at 6 p.m. for Destigmatize on Fit FM 96.7. Brought to you by the Western Regional Health Authority, Department of Mental Wellness.
That's just seek to find. Oh yeah, I ain't in the mood. I just need some solitude. Where are you now? When darkness seems to end. Where are you now? When the world is crumbling. Oh, I hear you say, look up, child. Hey, look up, child. Hey, where are you now? When all I feel is down.
Welcome. We're right here on Destigmatize on Fit FM 96.7, and we are so glad to have you. If you're on Fit FM 96.7, you're on fitfm.ja.com, Facebook, YouTube, friends who love Fit FM, welcome. We are so glad that you have joined us, and we ask that you talk to us, join the conversation, and our WhatsApp numbers are 876-478-9144 and 876-513-6668. Let me repeat those numbers again. 876-478-9144 and 876-513-6668. And we're so glad you're joining us. You have joined us because we want to bring into our conversation about our children. We know that May is Child's Month, and the theme selected for Child's Month is Children Need Our Love and Protection. Get involved. But we also were aware that April was Autism Awareness Month, and a lot of persons are getting more interested to know what is this autism spectrum disorder, what it is that we're talking about, and how is it that we can do a little bit more or help a little bit more, understand a little bit more, so that we're able to better help our children. We have online with us our guest, Dr. Stacey Ann Roach, and Dr. Stacey Ann Roach works in our children and adolescent mental health clinics in Kingston and St. Andrew. But she also has a lived experience, and so we welcome her on board because we are going to be discussing about autism and how it is that we can have some practical guidelines, some tips as to moving forward, because we know the challenges. Welcome, Dr. Roach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're able to join us.
Thank you.
All right, great. So,
and I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're happy to be with us. So we are talking about children, and knowing that this is Child's Month and we just had Autism Awareness Month, but we wanted to look at children's mental health, and we wanted to focus on autism. And I know that you're very intimate in our children and adolescent mental health clinics as a resident there, and working very hard with our children and our parents. And I wanted to give me an idea, or give our listeners an idea. When we talk about autism, what are we talking about?
Okay, so autism basically is a neurodevelopmental disorder, meaning that it affects the brain in a different way, and it also affects development of children, and so it's a collective set of behaviors. So these behaviors may be seen in typical children, but a collective set, like more than the normal amount of those types of behaviors is seen in one child, and it makes them, lose some function in terms of, connection with reality. Socially, they may be a little bit socially different or awkward to some persons, but we prefer to say different. And the way they communicate, that's the way they look at things, the way they perceive the environment. So simple things as like a siren passing won't affect a typical child, but a child with autism that would be maybe overstimulated by hearing the sirens, or just being in a crowd and hearing people talking. They're not able to listen to one person and say, oh, that's mommy's voice. They get overstimulated, which can cause them to start acting out, throwing, having a meltdown. And so they perceive things different. And that is what the basis of autism is,
Okay, all right. And that's very interesting, because I don't think we recognize this brain overstimulation and how it affects.
And autism doesn't, one thing that's important is that autism doesn't have a look. It does not have a look. So, persons would say, but how do I know if my child has autism? Do they look different? And because it's a spectrum, because it's called autism spectrum disorder. So it's a spectrum. So you can have those who are functional and can move independently, and those children, we may miss them. And then you have the severe ones who they are not able to do stuff on their own. They're not able to move independently and need a lot of assistance. And so it's a spectrum. So you find no two children or no two persons on the spectrum will present exactly the same. They may have similar traits, but they may not present exactly the same. And that's why it's a spectrum.
And that's very important, because a lot of times, and that's why we are on Destigmatize, because when we label, we create the stigma. And we are saying, oh, well, him look this way, or she looks that way, so it must be that. And, we label things, and we create the stigma, and therefore that causes challenges in persons seeking help and getting the help that they need at the correct time. But I wanted to ask you, we is it that we are seeing it more often, or is it that we are diagnosing it more frequently? Because are coming forward a little bit earlier. What is happening, and what it is it a very common thing that we are seeing in our child and adolescent mental health clinics or in health clinics generally? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so my thoughts are that autism is not new.
Yes.
I don't think it's new to us.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that people are more aware. There's the internet now.
Okay.
You're seeing stuff. You will hear about it. You'll see somebody on the internet and they'll say, I have autism spectrum disorder. The teachers are watching. Persons are now more aware because of the internet, because it's available. That's one. Two, you can look at it in two ways. One, is it more common now than it was back then?
Okay.
The question is, are we having more diagnoses now because persons are more aware, because parents now can pick up that I see my child lining up the toys, I see my child flapping the hands, I see my child doing certain things and I'm not sure, and you know that the clinic is available, so you'll go to the clinic, you'll ask your primary care physician, I see my child doing this X and Y, and I want to know if this is normal. And so you find that more persons are seeking help.
Right.
One of the things is that recently, I have and he is 10 years old.
Okay.
And my son, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, he started noticing when he was 18 months that something was different about him. And so when 18 years ago, it used to be 8 years ago, it would be 1 in 68.
Yes.
And now the CDC is recording 1 in 36. That's alarming.
It is alarming.
8 years ago.
Yes.
And 1 in 68 8 years ago was a lot compared to now
1 in 36.
Almost 1 in 36.
Right.
Is it that it's getting more common? Is it that something is causing this? Is there a genetic predisposition?
Yes.
People, there's still a lot of research being done as to what is causing autism. Is it something during the pregnancy? Does it have anything to do with, your environment? Were you under a lot of stress while being pregnant? Persons we're not sure. There's still a lot of research being done to figure out what is causing this alarming increase in the rate of diagnosis. That's one. Also, you can also look at it as in back then much wasn't understand. They didn't understand a lot about autism back then. So you had a lot of persons who were missed.
Right.
Because they seem more typical.
Right. That's what I was coming to.
In the sense that, because remember, DSM-4 a couple years ago had Asperger's separate
apart from autism. Yes.
Exactly, and those with Asperger's were seen as having less challenges. Were seen as
they could cope with the daily. They could go to the normal, right? Yes.
Very, very functional. Pretty much typical. However, they had difficulty making friends, and they had some other issues. And so for DSM-5, which is what we're using now, you find that everybody's under one umbrella. And the reason why everybody is now under one umbrella is because persons felt like those persons with Asperger's didn't have challenges, which were not true. Because they still had the overstimulation, they still have difficulty making friends, they had socially, they be socially different in terms of they may be very blunt, and persons couldn't understand why is this person so disrespectful, why is this person so rude. And so you have a lot of persons who the teachers would say that child is rude, that child has no manners, he just says whatever comes to his mouth, when it really isn't that the child is rude. The child is on the spectrum. And so because the child is able to function, able to do the work, because a lot of them are, we don't use the word high functioning anymore, but a lot of them are able to do pretty well. They excel at academics, some of them, and they may be even geniuses in a particular area, maybe but the science, arts. And so you find that you're saying this person is so brilliant. How could he be on the spectrum? And so no, everybody is under one umbrella now, which is autism spectrum disorder, and we don't discriminate. So we don't say because you're non-verbal, you're worse off than the person who is verbal. And because you're verbal, oh no, you're verbal, you don't have the issue of my non-verbal child. No, all of them, all children, all persons living with autism spectrum disorder have different challenges daily, and it sometimes affects the way they function in society. So, as I'm saying, a lot of them probably were missed couple of years ago, but no, persons are even
probably not
when
missed.
You're an adult that I'm different. Something was different about me. I realized that I didn't like this. Textures bothered me. The feel of certain things, and then they started to look into it and found out that they were actually on the spectrum, but they were missed because they were pretty much functional.
So these are some of the causing the ratios to be increasing. I just wanted to stick a pin because you mentioned some DSM, and I wanted our listeners to recognize that the DSM that we're talking about, we call it the manual that we use to guide us in making diagnosis for psychiatric or mental disorders. And it's very important because this is how we communicate with each other. If we are sending a diagnosis to, you come in for a report, or you come in for an evaluation, and we need to send something off to your doctor, or sometimes legally, this is how we communicate so that we all have the same standard of making that diagnosis. And it's very important that you raise the point in terms of the ratio and the changing of some of these manuals, because it is with the change of the manuals that we have, as you mentioned, put some of these things under this umbrella of autism spectrum disorder, and becomes very important because persons now recognize the need to not only think about medical and treatment in terms of medication, but what are the psychosocial plans that we need to have for persons living with these neurodevelopmental disorders. And we call them neurodevelopmental, as Doctor explained it. I wanted to ask you though, because some persons may be wondering, you recognize it from 18 months old. Is it that what it is that what persons may notice that is a bit different about this child, and you start wondering what is happening here?
Okay, so each time a child goes to their regular checkup, the doctors or the public health nurse will look at the child and they will ask mommy a few or daddy questions such as, is the child looking at you? Is he smiling? When they're at a certain age. So at 3 months, they'll ask you, is the child smiling with you, daddy, when you make a smile? Or mommy, does the child giggle when you try to, and so they'll ask you these questions, and sometimes you'll be like, why nurse asking me that? It's because they want to know, is the child meeting the appropriate developmental at the age they're developing normally, and because they want to know if this child is developing normally, that's how we track them, right? Because at 3 months you're supposed to be doing a set of you're supposed to be smiling, you should be able to, the child would giggle. At 6 months they know who mommy and daddy is. They start to want, some of them will, even at 5 months, will try to sit up, and if you find that even though they say that you don't start to see the signs and symptoms until the child is older, even in the earlier stages, some children will not be making eye contact. So you'll be playing with the baby and the baby is not laughing at all. The baby is just looking like, you'll find that you try to touch the baby and hug the baby, and the baby is uncomfortable with you touching them constantly. And you're just like, why is my child don't like when I cuddle with them? And that's because it's overstimulating for them, some of them with the touch. And so when they reach about 1 year old, you find that a lot of them they will meet their milestones up until age 1, and then some of them will start to regress. So you find that some persons will see, oh, my child said mama, my child said dada, my child is talking, my child used to make eye contact, and then duck. All of a sudden I notice the child not looking at me. All of a sudden I notice he wants to go in a corner, or he or she wants to go in a corner, sit by themselves, playing by themselves, don't want to play with their little cousin. You start to notice a lot of Jamaicans, you know, we're from a loving environment where we always have family around, you know, cousin, and sometimes they're close in age group. Most Jamaicans have some cousin that they're like their twin cousin, or a sibling or an uncle that they're close in age with, and you can match that child up when you look. Not that you're comparing them and saying, oh, why might that child not doing that? But you're looking at them and you say, but I'm seeing Andrew X doing these little things, creeping. He's walking at 18 months, but my child at 15 months is not even walking. Also, you're looking at about a year or a little over a year. By 15 months, that child should be saying mama, dada. That child should be saying dada, which is so, you know, that's the first thing every child says, da, 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 because they're making words, they're babbling. If you notice that your child isn't babbling, which is, you know, saying like baba, da, 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 making those little sounds, you have to look into those things. Even by 6 months, they should be babbling. They should be saying just a babble, and then you find that if they go on
their own language
by age 1.
They're having their own language.
You're not babbling.
Huh? I say having their own little language.
Exactly. If you're 1 and the child is not babbling, then that's an issue. Also, we speak about language because a lot of us, most parents pick it up when speech is delayed, right? And that's because for us in our culture, our babies talk very early.
Yes, true.
And so in our culture, speech is a big thing in our culture, and that's why a lot of parents find out that their child may be on the spectrum because of a speech delay. But not every child may have a speech delay. Some of them may say maybe up to par with their peers in terms of the speech. But you find that they can't hold a crayon. They don't scribble. You find that some of them, they don't play with other children. They're not interested at all in even trying to, you know, a child will run up to another child and push them. It's not that they want to fight, you know, but that's their way of saying hi, and they push them, and they're playing. And so you say, your child does not care about the environment. You leave the room. Normally, when a parent leaves the room, a typical child would just look all over the place. Where is mommy? Where is daddy? But a child with autism may not care. You leave the room. I'm in my own little corner, in my own little world, stay with my own little self. You find that they have some unusual attachment to stuff, objects. You know, you'll find that that child just cling to a bottle, a bottle that, you know, a box. So you buy the child a truck, and instead of playing with the truck, the child is playing with the box that the truck came in, and you're just like, what? And you're saying, but he's not interested in the truck. Or even if he's playing with the truck, he turns the truck upside down and he's just spinning the wheel because they love wheels, they love spinning, they love wheels, objects. They love spinning stuff. They like the lights. If it spins, they love spinning toys. So once you see them spinning, and you know they're stimming as well, self-stimulatory behavior such as rocking back and forth. So what you find is a lot of baby will rock, but at a certain age it should settle down. And if you find that at age 1, 2, the child is rocking back and forth, hitting the head in the wall, not that they want to hurt themselves, but they're just hitting the head, that you find that they will throw themselves down, and you're saying, why would he hurt himself like that, or why would she hurt herself like that? And you're saying, no man, something is different. The child will line up the toys. So anytime you see like they're playing with their toys, and they're playing with a couple toys, and you see 3 or more toys, not just 2, not if you see them line up 1, 2, 3, and you say, oh no man, he's on the spectrum. No, that doesn't mean he's on the spectrum. He might like trains, and maybe that's what he's pretending. But you find that they line up 4 or 5 toys, or they line up the shoes. So instead of, you know, most kids don't care if the shoes are scattered on the veranda, but imagine a 2-year-old or 18-month-old lining all the shoes together on the veranda, and you're just like, why is this child so obsessed with shoes? And you're saying, oh no man, him just loves shoes. No, that's unusual. That's not typical. If you find that the child, so at a younger age, children may have different taste buds, and they might like some things and they may not like a certain thing. But if you find that when you give this child creamy stuff, they don't like it, they're disgusted by it. Most of the things that you try to eat, the child is not even interested in it. That's something to look at, because children usually eat what their parents are eating. Most of them, some of them won't like it, but if you see it's continuous, if you notice they don't like wet stuff, or if things they by touch or feel. So if the place is too wet and they, you notice they have a disgust by it, and they start to cry and they start to scream, and you're talking, you're in a noisy environment, and they start to cover the ears and rock back and forth. So these are symptoms that you would see in a typical child. But if you see more than about 5 of these issues in a child at age 2, age 15 months going up, you ought to look at it and look out for those little things. You want to look out for the flapping of the hands. So babies usually flap, because that's how they tell you that they're happy. But if when they're as soon as they start to pass 1, 2 going up, the flapping goes away. But children on the spectrum, you find they'll flap a lot. So they just flap in the hands, and when they're very, very happy, some of them walk tippy-toe. So you look out for the tippy-toe, the ones that walk on the tiptoes. You look at that too as well. Also, you can also look out for, even if they don't speak, right? We talk about speech, but even if a child is not able to speak or communicate verbally, they have non-verbal communication, right? So a child may not be able to tell you, say, mommy, want juice. But they will point. They'll point and say, to make a gesture to say, I want the juice. A child with autism doesn't point. They rarely point. They don't use it. So it's like you have to teach them how to point. They don't point. They usually go and drag you to the fridge, and the toy will drop under the bed, and a child who can't speak will point to show you that mommy, mama, and they'll point under the bed to show you that the toy is under the bed. A child with autism would probably stand there and cry, and you as the parent the only way you will know is the toy is because you remembered that he or she had the truck, or he or she had the doll, and the doll, they no longer have the doll, and they're crying. So you say, oh, the doll fell, and you start to look under the bed, and you realize, oh, it's the doll. So you realize that they don't communicate. They can't tell you non-verbally what's going on. They don't point. They don't show you stuff. When a child is coloring, like if you're doing something with that child and you're teaching your child to color, and that's why it's important for parents to spend time with their children, color with them. That child would want to look at you to make sure that you're agreeing or you are impressed with them. So they're looking at you to see if mommy see that a coloring. I wonder if mommy see how I'm playing with the toy. So you push the truck and they push it back, and they want to impress you. If that child doesn't care if you look or not, then there's a problem, because I don't care about if mommy looks or daddy looks, because I'm in my little world, and my little world is where I feel safe and comfortable. So those are the little things that you want to look out for.
Yes. And Dr. Roach, we have a question, because somebody was asking about referring to Albert Einstein as having a speech delay, and wondering, can a speech delay be a sign of expeditious growth in other senses above the norm, and by extension being a sign of excitement rather than worry? Quite a philosophical question.
Well, that's a lovely question, because I used to follow, as I say, back then most persons didn't know much about Einstein, but Einstein is now scientists are saying Einstein was probably on the spectrum. Yes, because one of the things is that you can have selective mutism, where they don't speak or they don't talk. So the child chooses not to speak. Maybe some trauma happened, and that child decided that, listen, I'm not talking to anybody. We're not talking about that. I remember I read something about Einstein, and they said that, you know, he didn't speak on four and said, pass the chicken, please, or something like that.
Yes.
And I remember my son, he didn't speak for a long, like when he was very little to no speech. And every day I would say, pen. I'd go to him and I would say, pen. And he would never look or even engage. One day I just see the child walk over, took up a pen and say pen. At age three going on to four.
Right,
you understand?
Right.
So, but a lot of persons are now saying that Einstein, and to how brilliant Einstein was.
Yes.
Because I used to worry about my son significantly in terms of the fact that he was delayed in most areas. But my son is brilliant. My son is brilliant. So autism is not to say that you won't have, remember it's a spectrum, you know, so you have some of them who are brilliant, and then you have some who will have the intellectual disability or the learning disability aspect of it. But speech delay is not necessarily linked to brilliance. Right. You understand? And I think, you can have though, and
I think one of the things we need to point out, I know that sometimes persons believe that when you lose one sense, you compensate in the other areas. And I'm wanting to think that this may be something that Mr. Jackson is asking online. Can a delay be a sign of expeditious growth in other senses above the norm? But one of the things we need to remember is a delay in speech is because of how the brain is developing, not that it is going in other directions and creating all these waves of development. And it could indicate one, speech delay can be a lot of things happening. As you mentioned before, trauma, other hearing impairment could be there. Could be something anatomical. There's something wrong with the tongue or the voice box or something. So there's a lot of things that would have to put into perspective before we can, broadly say that.
Because when you're working up a child for autism spectrum disorder, one of the first tests you want to do is a hearing test. You want to make sure that this child is hearing, because one of the most important signs that parents will come and tell you about is that the child don't answer to their name. So even if a child is not able to communicate verbally, when you say Joshua or David or Sasha, they look, so they look around. Immediately they hear the name, the term. By the age of usually about 6 months onwards, kids can, they'll look if they hear the name and so on. But you find that after age 1, if you're calling your child, you're like, Joshua, not looking, Joshua. And then after about 6 calls, Joshua just turn and look at you. And then you're thinking Joshua is answering to his name. No, he's probably just looking in your direction, or no, he decides that I'm going to answer you because I'm coming out of my world for a minute. But the thing is, children usually look when you call their name. When I'm in a child first time, he's seen once they're 1 or 8 months, I usually call them and I say, what's the child's name, mommy or daddy? And they'll tell me the child name. And if once they reach 1 and I say, Lisa, and the child will look, I want to see that the child responds. You understand? Because that shows that the child is hearing, 1, and 2, that the child acknowledges that that's my name. Now, if the child is not hearing, then that's a problem. So you have to, that's one of the workup that we do when we are assessing a child for autism, to make sure that this is not a child that's really not hearing, and you don't want to label, and that's why in the first instance when we usually the first contact with a child with global, would usually say, okay, maybe this is global developmental delay, and we label that, we say global developmental delay rather than autism. Because you can have a global developmental delay which will present and looks like autism and may not be autism.
And when we speak about global developmental delay, what are we talking about?
So
no, just in a nutshell, in terms of in terms of I'm asking you, in a nutshell, it's about everything being delayed.
Everything being delayed, meaning speech, gross motor, like if they can run, can they jump, are they running at the age? So at age 2, they should be able to jump, they should be able to walk up a set of steps by themselves. If the child is not able to do that, there's some delay in gross motor. You're looking at the fine motor. Can they pick up a pencil and just scribble, just mark, if they're not doing that? Can they stack 3 by the age of 2 or 1, 2, they could stack 2 blocks.
Yes.
When they're 3, they can stack 3 or more blocks. Can they do those? If they're not able to to stack blocks, then you know that the fine motor may be out. The gross motor and fine motor may be out of sync or maybe delayed. They're not speaking that speech, so that's a delay in speech. They're not able to communicate. So non-verbally, they're not able to point. They're not pointing. They're not showing you stuff, coming to you to show you that these are the things I'm interested in. Mommy, look, mommy, just a simple look, mommy. Or they pick up a stone. A child will pick up a stone and mommy, look, see what I found, or mommy, just look, just barely indicating that I want you to look. Can they do they try to take off the shorts or try to take off the shirt, at age 3? Do they try to get undressed? So the global developmental delay is a set where we look at the speech, we look at the gross development, we look at the fine motor, we look at the communication. And if they're delayed in all of those compared to children at that same age, then that is what we call global developmental delay. And then we start to work them up for other things. Is this a learning disability? Is this autism? What is this? So we start to look into it.
Right. A lot of times, so doctor, and I need to ask you, when you're doing your workup as well, does that include looking at, the impact of the environment where they live, how mother or parents or their caregivers in terms of their level of education does impact on how the child develops? And can this, be misrepresented in terms of the child is appearing to be on the spectrum, but when you make further inquiries or probably do your histories, you start recognizing that poor parental involvement in the child can cause some of these symptoms?
Yes, to some extent, because if you have a child, remember, children learn through play,
right,
and they learn through interaction with their peers and surroundings. So you find that a child that comes from what a typical Jamaica would call like a big yard or goes to daycare, you find that those children, they are very prime, what Jamaicans call prime. Those children will talk and they'll tell you, no, don't do that. And you'll find a 2-year-old in the office telling me, don't touch me. And I'm just like, you're just 2. How you just, I want that. Give me, and they're just talking up a storm and you're just like, but I never know when you're 2, you can talk. So, but and then you have another 2-year-old that is not speaking. It could be that child is shy. It could be that the 2-year-old is shy. That's one thing. Or it could be that child, they don't have any other children, the older children around them. They're not there, because when older children are around, you find that the younger ones, they grow up, they develop so fast when the older children are in the home. But you find that if you have a home with an only child and the helpers, a lot of helpers, some can read and some may not be able to read to the child and turn on the TV. It depends on the dynamics of the family. The parents, it's not that it's just probably that the parent is not educated, but it could be that the parents are both doctors and they're not home, or both lawyers and they're very busy and they're working hard to provide for this child, so they don't have the time to spend as much time with the child, and the nanny just turn on the TV on Ava and Ava. Coco Melon. And that child is just watching Coco Melon or Dave and Ava for the whole day, and they're not getting any stimulation. So that could cause the child, because if somebody's not showing you that pointing and not saying, oh, pick up blocks, let's put the block on the other block in, taking out, throw the clothespins and put back the clothespin in the basket and saying one clothespin and stuff like that. You find that just the little things, you find that child may not be stimulated. And so when you meet that child, in your office, you're saying that, boy, I don't think this child is developing at a normal, at a typical in comparison. But then if a child has never stacked a block, they probably can't.
Yes.
If my mommy has never sat down with me and stacked 3 blocks, when I come to you stack blocks if I'm not used to stacking blocks, you know. So yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to match it to how their environment is and find different different ways in which you can evaluate them. So can the child hold a crayon? Sometimes it's not that they can't hold a crayon or they don't want to hold a crayon, but one, they're not used to it at home. Nobody gives them a crayon. And then when they come to your office, they're shy. They don't want to hold a crayon. So that's why it's a set of things that you're looking at. You're not only looking at one thing. You're looking at how the child interacts with their parents, you know. Is the child, for instance, a child will come to the office and mommy will say to you, I said, does the child make eye contact with you, mommy? Yes, doctor.
Hello? Oh, we lost Dr. Stacey Ann, but we're going to get her back. We are actually speaking with Dr. Stacey Ann Roach, and she is one of our residents in the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Clinic in Kingston and St. Andrew, and we are speaking about children's mental health, focusing on autism, and what a conversation we have been having with Dr. Roach. So glad to have you back, Dr. Roach. I don't know what happened. Yes. But you were talking, I guess it's excitement. Yes, but you were speaking of, we lost you again. Hello? You're back?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, I heard a beep again. Yes, so you may continue. We just missed a little part, yes.
Yes, so I'm saying that what happens is that you'll find that, hello?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Yes, you'll find that
Dr. Roach? Are you hearing me? No, I think we lost her again. So my guest is Dr. Stacey Ann Roach of the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Clinic in Kingston and St. Andrew. And she has been talking to us about autism spectrum disorders, some of the challenges that can affect young children, and some of the symptoms that are the signs rather that we would see from as early as a few months old. You know, the poor eye contact, the poor smile, not being interested in play with others, that is, mainly sitting by themselves, and certain behavior patterns that we may observe in terms of, yes, we're here, Dr. Roach?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Sorry about that.
Yes. So I was just, summing up a little of some of the signs that parents could look for, and to remember that it is not just one-off, it is a collection, and this has been going on more than the normal. And that's what we're looking for, to, give us an idea as to what is really happening to seek help. Yes, but you can continue, Dr. Roach.
Yes, so I was saying that when the child comes to the office,
yes,
and you are looking at them, the mom will tell you, yes, they interact with them, yes. They communicate, yes, doc. And then when you look, do they answer to the name? Yes, doc, they answer to the name. And you'll be there calling the child's name, and the child doesn't budge, doesn't look at all. Mommy will be calling the child doesn't look at mommy. And then after about 6 calls, you see the child turn and look at mommy. But it's not a look as if I'm looking at you because I'm acknowledging you. It's just that I'm looking around and you're there. You will look at the child and say, oh, the child is making eye contact. But if you look closely, they're actually not looking at you. They're looking past you. So they're not looking into your eyes. They're avoiding it. And so they will look past you. And so you will find that parents will miss those things. And also you will see this and say, well, this child is not being stimulated enough. This child is, and you want to ask mommy to start some stimulatory things online. So I'll give them videos to go and watch and how to play with them. I will tell them, play with them with toys, see how they interact with you. If they're not interested, then you let me know, give me some feedback and stuff like that. But we don't diagnose autism at or clinic. So what I do, I would just look for some of the signs and symptoms, and then send them to where the child can be properly assessed to see if this child is this a lack of stimulation, or this actually on the spectrum. And also, yes, education can play a role, because if the parents are not able to communicate with the child properly, then you find that the child, because for instance, a lot of parents expect that the child should walk before age 1, which that's most children, it's usually age 1 and up. But a lot of Jamaicans by 7 months to putting the child down, bearing pressure on the legs for them to walk early. And that's a big thing for Jamaicans. We also encourage them to seek early. We like early seekers, early walkers, and so you find that we pressure the children a lot, and they know if the child.
So you're saying that the pressure starts from early?
Yes, and some parents start slapping them, start to slap them, and start to say, you need to talk, you need to walk, stuff like that. And you find that the child will just shut down, and that child will shut down and may not do some of the stuff early, and it's just really because the child has no interest in this, because of how you pressure them, or how it's being perceived as if you don't walk, I'm going to slap you. So, no, it does happen, you'll be surprised.
I'm surprised.
And then you find that, as I say, time, if you don't have time and if you don't spend time with your children, some things will be missed, and you will not be able to see that, the child is not doing a particular thing. Or if you notice, some parents will tell you, oh, Doc, from I start doing this with him, I see the child pointing, I see him communicating a little bit more. And that's because now you're playing with the child, now you're spending time with the child, and so the child knows how to interact with you. So, all of these are learned behaviors.
Right. I wanted to ask you though, because I know that we are just coming out of COVID, and given that we had those months of poor interaction, lack of play, and more dedication to tablets, even for school, is it that you were able to recognize our persons were presenting more with children?
You're low, I'm not hearing.
Oh, I don't know. You hearing me now? Are you hearing me now?
I'm hearing you better.
Okay, sorry about that. I was speaking about COVID and the lack of interaction, the reduction in play, the more attention to tablets and learning. If we see an impact, how that negatively impacted some of our children, where we see more presenting with symptoms suggesting, could this move on to autism spectrum? In your area, what was your experience?
Okay, so with the post-COVID period has been a rough one, I must say.
Okay.
For a number of reasons.
Yes.
Since post-COVID, we have had a lot of children being presented at the clinic for not just intellectual or autism, but just overall addiction to screen time. There's a big issue with screen addiction. And so even the teenagers, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that video where this child, the mom took away the phone and he totally vandalized the house, wrecked the house. And you find that you'll have, if you take away the phone, children will say they're going to harm themselves. There has been a significant increase in screen addiction, and it's something that we're trying to tackle right now in the clinic. We're having a lot of discussions about it. Also, because parents are home and they're working from home. We had a lot of working from home, and to keep the child quiet, so that your boss and your
don't hear anything.
You give them a tablet because kids keep quiet when they have their tablets. And so you find that an increase in screen time decreases interaction with parents.
Definitely.
You no longer want to play with your mommy and daddy. You're no longer seeking their attention because you can watch something on YouTube, and you find that,
or you might find somebody there that's giving you attention too. Online.
Exactly, for the older kids who can communicate.
Young too.
And you find that because of that, no, you're not speaking to your parents, you're not communicating with your peers, you and your sisters. So you'd have siblings playing. One time children used to be outside playing and stuff like that. They're not playing outside anymore. You don't find kids coming in with the wingworm as how they used to come in with wingworm because they used to play and stuff like that. No, those things have
More
decreased.
eye
And guess what?
problems now.
Most children are
Wearing
actually on the
glasses.
tablet, playing with their tablets, and it works for some parents because you don't have to put up with them and then nagging and them tearing down the house if they're sitting in one spot, not moving and watching the tablet. For some parents, it works. Some parents, I mean, even at the clinic, if the child comes to the clinic, I have to be saying, hey, can you put away the tablet for a minute? Can you? And then it starts and the attitude because I have to put away my tablet, I have to put away my phone. They'll come and they'll say, Doc, can I get your Wi-Fi? You know, the older children and stuff like that. And it's a big thing. You go out and nobody wants to talk to anybody because they want to go back home to use their tablet and their phone. So it's really a big thing right now for us, and it's causing a lot of problems in school because the children know they'll take their phone to school, and while in class they're using the phones. They're addicted to the TikTok. So we have the ones who, I just want. My son told me, "Oh, mommy, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to make money from YouTube." So we have to cut YouTube time so that he can focus a little bit more about. And so now we're starting this. We were just discussing how we can talk to teenagers and talk to parents about play. So we have a play therapist at our clinic.
Nice.
And so we are encouraging our parents. We have started this. We're supposed to start this new initiative where with the antenatal, when they come to clinic
postnatal.
for the vaccine,
and they
come for the vaccine, we want to teach the mothers and the fathers how to play with their children, how to engage them from a younger age, how to do tummy time, what we call tummy time, which is putting them down on the floor, engaging them. And even if these children are on the spectrum, this tummy time and the playing with them is also a way of early intervention.
Very good.
We think that early intervention is just going to the therapist and getting the behavioral therapy, but no. Early intervention can start at home, even if you don't have any money.
Right.
You sit down, you have a little rug or you have a little sheet, and you put it down and you play with the child. You tell the child, look at mommy, look at mommy, and you make everything exciting, and you laugh and you clap, and you let them be excited. And you find that even if they are on the spectrum, you find that these children will still respond to you, and you will be surprised because the child. I remember they would say to me, "Oh, your son is not going to be functional. He won't be able to understand certain jokes and stuff like." And no, this is a child that will give you not jokes. One of his favorite jokes is, "What do you call a three-humped camel?" And I say, "I don't know." He says, "Pregnant," because they have the two humps, so the other hump must mean they're pregnant and stuff like that. And this is a child that's giving jokes because we make it a thing. Whenever he's walking around, we say, "Daniel, you're stimming, you're walking around, stop the stimming. Let's find something else to do," and we redirect. So that's how we're trying to get parents to understand that communicate with your children, play with them. Play is important. Sometimes 20 minutes a day. I implore
That's
all
a tummy
patients,
time?
No, 20 minutes a day for tummy. Tummy time is you can do as much as you can, like probably for 30 minutes and so. But in terms of playing, like parents who have older children who you're coming from work and you're tired and you really can't engage them for a long period. But 20 minutes of asking them how their day was at school, even if they can't tell you how their day was, you say, "Well, mommy had a good day at school, at work, and this is what mommy did," and so they'll understand what you're saying, and then over time, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but even a couple months, they'll be able to tell you. A child that may not be able to communicate initially will start telling you, "Oh, mommy, the teacher wrote on the board." Simple things like that. And you praise them and you say, "Yes, I thank you for telling me that. I appreciate you telling me that," and you let them see that you value what they're saying. You value your time with them, so you play. If is even a board game, I always say it is even cards. Do something.
Right,
Take
right, right,
20
right.
minutes. If you can't do it every day, we want you to do it every day. But if you can't do it every day, every other day. If you can't do it every other day, just once a week. But spend some time with your children. Cut away the screen sometimes. Give them as a reward. So don't let them have access to the screen. And one of the problems, the issues that we're facing now with the screen time is that the teachers are sending the homework online now, and everything done. So you find that the children need a tablet, and they're telling mommy, I have a project to do, and I need a tablet. And you find that they're using the tablets and the computers for the project, but they're also using it to communicate with who they want to communicate with and to watch what they want to watch. And so you find that it's very difficult to take away the screen from them, because a lot of the learning is being done through the screen. Persons are still sending the work online and stuff like that. So it makes it very difficult to tackle it. But it's really, really a global thing with the screen time and a global, it's an addiction now. It's an addiction.
I wanted to ask as we wrap up, Dr. Steve, very interesting conversation, very, very interesting. The whole place is blowing up with comments. But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about tummy time. What are some of the other, because one of the things that we find is that it's very, when we want persons to get assessment, or probably not assessment, but therapy, or to get their children, involved in therapy. Number one, it's expensive. Number two, the waiting time is very long. What are some of the practical, we can say to parents, this the possibility to your child, but these are some of the things that you can do until you get the help that you need, given our limited resources.
Okay, thank you. That's a lovely question, and I'm glad you asked that question. And because a lot of our children could improve, or we would see significant improvements had they received some amount of therapy. I mean, no matter how small it is, but as you say, therapy is expensive, and I can tell you, you're talking about $12,000 for 2 hours.
Wow.
And a child, I mean, in the States, they give them almost like 40 hours a week for the older children, for like 2 up. And we can't afford that in Jamaica, So we can't afford therapy, speech therapy. A lot of us focus on the speech because the speech is important, but behavior is important as well, because you want that child to be able to follow some instructions and to be able to be functional if you're sending them to school. So some of the little things, as I said, mention tummy time. Tummy time is what, like floor time, and you can start tummy time as early as 3 months. At 1 month you can start putting them down. Well, 2 months you see them start raising up a little bit, but you have to be there supervising them so that they don't hurt themselves. At 3 months, so they'll be a little bit able to lift up the neck, so you start to put them down and you play with them. You can put them on their back. So tummy time don't necessarily mean they're laying down face forward. It's just a way of saying they're under the floor and you're engaging them. So one of the things that you could do, you have like one toy, because you don't want to overstimulate them. So you can have 1 or 2 toys and you're in control, and you put it in front of them and you run his car and you say little words, and over time they will start to babble, and they will realize, oh, you're talking, this is talking, babbling, and you say nice talking, and you're encouraging them, because you have to encourage, because kids love when you praise them. That's what they live for. And so you put them down, you do floor time with them. So you're basically playing with them on the floor. You're getting down to their level, and you're playing with them. You can use whatever toy they like. So if they have a teddy bear, if they have a doll, if they have a car, whatever they like, you can play with them. With the blocks, you can stack the blocks, and for the toddlers, you can start stacking the blocks to let them see how you stack it, and let them pretend, let them imitate, because they learn through imitation. A lot of their learning is through imitation. For instance, I give you an example. My son wasn't speaking, and we couldn't afford speech therapy, and so we would say every day, I would say to him, you have to talk. We're going to talk. And I say, hi, Daniel, pen. And he would just be looking at me, looking all over the place. And I would focus his head. I would hold his head and I say, look at mommy. And I would turn his head to look at me. And I would say, nice looking. Till over time, you see him start to look now. And he's not looking away as he used to. And it would be like a glimpse. And so you say to them, they don't want to make eye contact, but they want some water. So you say, ask for the water. Say, water, water. And over time, some of them will, they will try to say water. They will say, please. Sometimes they can't say bottle, but you can say more or juice or, you know, listen, they might not be able to say the 2-syllable words. So you start to say the little things to them. For instance, you can blow a bubble with them and then you go pop, pop. and then they're just saying pop, pop. And you're saying to yourself, oh, he's saying pop, pop. So it's like you're creating words, you know, little words. You also, you can let them touch the lips and you say to them, mama. You know, you show them how your mouth is moving and you get down to their level and you say, mama. And you make it fun and you just, you know, mama, mama. And you start, you know, you go high tone, low tone, stuff like that. You can also, for the repetition, you have to be, it's repetition. Lots of patience. You have to have patience with your children. I know that it can get frustrating, but patience is key. Every single day, you don't give up. You say pen. I said pen for 3 months until one day this guy just walk over to the pen and say pen. And when I heard pen, I could not believe it. I just started to cry because he finally said pen. And now I have a talkative child telling me, why do I need to do homework if I spend the whole day at school? When do I get time to do what I want to do? And this was a child I was never expecting conversation from. But if you foster it, every day you come home, what did you eat at school? You probably hear nothing. What did you do at school? Nothing. And you hear nothing for a month straight, you hear nothing. And then you start role play. You can role play with your partner. You can role play and say, David, what did you eat at school? Oh, I ate dumplings and I ate chicken. And then over time they realize what you want them to say and they'll start saying it. You sit down with them,
Dr. Roach. Yeah, Dr. Roach. My producer is telling me that you have to come back for part 2. It's like you're just getting into it. And we are so happy. I know. So you have to come back. You know you have to come back, right?
Definitely come back if you guys will have me.
Of course we will. Of course we will. Of course. It has been such a pleasant conversation, such a learning experience. And when you have the experience to go with it, I mean, it makes all the difference. And the key words I'm getting: patience, repetition. Take the time to spend with take the time to spend with your children. And it doesn't start when you recognize that something is wrong. It starts before, once you have even before you conceive and once a child is in the womb. We have to do a lot. As we mentioned, children need our love and protection, and we have to get involved. Oh, they are demanding a part 2. My God. Yes, they are demanding a part. So part 2 is coming, my listeners. Part 2 is coming. So we're so happy to have Dr. Stacey Ann Roach with us. We were listening to her speaking about our children's mental health with focus on autism. So glad to have you right here on Fit FM 96.7 on Destigmatize, and wherever you are listening, on fitfmj.com, Fit FM radio, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Friends Who Love Fit FM. Thank you for joining us. And as always, there but for the grace of God go I. There's no good mental health. There's no good health without mental health. And we ask you to look in the mirror, closing out with my favorite, Rondell Positive. Thank you so much for being with us. And yes, there will be a part 2. So thank you, doctor. Thank you, madam producer.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. Answers in the mirror. In the mirror. Science says